Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome to Prog Chattery 777. We're chatting about Rush, and we're deep into the discography now with Roll the Bones. This is their 14th studio album, and it was released in 1991, so this is the album that brought them headlong into the 90s. And I must say, I've got a lot of time for Roll the Bones. I think this is actually a very, very good album. It's a great set of songs. It's well balanced. It's consistent, and it's just a great snapshot of the band operating at a very high confidence level. It is, of course, a transitional album. They're still transitioning from the synthesizer period towards the more direct, heavy, hard rock sort of period. So in that regard, it's a great balance between the two. So that's really nice. There's still a good blend of sequencers and synthesizers on here, but they're used in a much more tasteful way. It's also sort of a return to form for Rush. If you watch my other videos, you'll know, when I think of the weaker albums in Rush's catalog, usually the ones that come to mind are Hold Your Fire and Presto. And I think the reason that is both of those albums almost have rounded edges. It's like a softer version of Rush. It doesn't have the edginess that, the other albums do. For that reason, it makes, it gives Hold Your Fire and Presto, almost a poppy sort of AOR vibe. More so Hold Your Fire than Presto. But on Roll the Bones, that edginess is back, and it feels more, like the hard rock band that Rush is. And even though, the songwriting, that's big notable point, is, the songwriting is the main focus here. It still has that, rock energy. It doesn't feel quite so much like a pop album as the previous two. But with regards to the songwriting, I think this is a certain moment in their career when they had, they had properly grown up and matured as songwriters, and they got very, very good at, simply crafting strong melodies and good chords to support them, with all kinds of little musical hooks. But that changes, the whole attitude of the band quite a bit. I talked a little bit in the previous videos about this as well. But, in the earlier days, Rush would write songs to showcase their instrumental prowess. And, the decisions that they made in terms of the arrangements were usually decisions to be like, oh, here's this drum fill, here's this, crazy bass line, or here's a great guitar solo. Whereas now the decisions they're making with the arrangements are more to support the vocals and support the lyrics and support the melodies, and they do that through catchy hooks, and it's just a different attitude that they're showcasing at this point, and that's cool. That brings a freshness to it. There's a certain excitement about this record that hasn't really been felt since maybe Grace Under Pressure or Power Windows. Probably Power Windows, I would say. But in all those regards, it makes it a really, really good album, and it's definitely an essential. If you're a Rush fan, you definitely need to get it. It's like I said, in terms of the prog end of things, if you're a big prog fan, you might be a little bit disappointed because the songs are much simpler than anything that's on Permanent Windows or Moving Pictures or any of the '80s albums. It is a more refined sound, like I said, to showcase the songs rather than the playing. And that's cool. That's all a good thing, and it contributes to the freshness, like I said. And I really like the album cover too. It's a great album cover. I love the whole the dice theme and the skull, and that kind of reflects the lyrics. It is one of those thematic albums. A lot of the songs have a certain there's a certain theme. It's not a concept album, but it deals with topics of fate and taking chances and just the strange flow and ebb of time. And the album title, Roll the Bones, is slang for roll the dice, which means, take a shot. If there's an opportunity, if there's a chance something can happen, you might as well take it, because we only get to do this crazy thing once, this crazy thing called life. So, very strong lyrics. I mean, Pierre had definitely matured as a lyricist quite a bit at this point as well, so that's all duly worth noting. Anyway, We'll take a look at the tracks here. So it opens with Dreamline, and this is a Rush classic, really, really good song. They played this live probably just about every concert, just about every tour after this. Definitely became a fan favorite, and it is a great song. I love the opening. Almost sounds like the tide coming in, and then that great muted line, really, really good, and the bass comes in, and it's very, very pensive, and it's a slow build, and I love the lyrics. I love the imagery of the lyrics. He's got a roadmap to Jupiter. There's such a great imagery to that. And then of course it gets big and dramatic. It's a similar structure perhaps to Distant Early Warning from Grace Under Pressure. It's not quite as good as that, but it is a tremendous song. All kinds of great drama, and there's big, sweeping flourishes that come in and out. I love the chorus too. We are young, wandering the face of the earth. And you see the strength of melody. You see how much better Geddy and Alex got, or it's probably Geddy because he'd do the vocal melodies, but he got much better at finding the perfect way of expressing the lyrics with those melodies. And that's something that it took him a while to get to that, and that's really interesting. You can tell he's spending more time, figuring out the best way to deliver those lyrics and the best way to sing them, right? So that's really good. Like I said, very strong chorus, very strong song altogether, and again, there's more balls to it. It's got that edge that was missing for the last couple albums. So that's a great intro, great way to start the album out. Moving on to track 2, we get Bravado. Now this is a very popular one amongst Rush fans, but it's actually one of my least favorites on the album. I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure if there's just something I'm not getting. There's nothing wrong with Bravado. It's a well-structured song. It's got a strong hook and a strong chorus. And lyrically, I mean, it's an emotional song. I think it kind of deals with dealing with missed shots and near misses and almost success but not quite. I think that's kind of what the lyric is about. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's just the song's never really quite grabbed me. So I don't really know why that is. But it is considered a classic Rush song. They played it live quite a bit, and it's certainly a fan favorite, I think. Anyway, moving on to track 3, we get Roll the Bones, the title track. I really like this. This is a great song. I love how quick the intro is. And that keyboard patch that comes in. You think it's Geddy, but it's actually Peart that's triggering that on one of his electronic pads. So that's kind of interesting. But it's a great song. It's funky and it's groovy. And of course, the big famous part about Roll the Bones is the rap that comes in the middle section. And I think that may have upset a lot of people, but people don't take that sort of thing for what it is. It's just a bit of fun, They're not being serious about it. It's not like, when they put a little bit of hip hop in the middle of the song, it doesn't mean that they're gonna move into a hip hop direction. They're just incorporating those influences into their sound. You think 1991, hip hop had matured and become, a real thing at that point. So they're just having fun with what's popular at the day, what was popular in the day. During the R42 tour, there's a great moment when they play Roll the Bones live, and for the rap, they actually made a video of all sorts of celebrity Rush fans that actually sang bits of the rap, and Claypool's on that, and it was a great little moment of the R40 tour. I thought that was really cool. But like I said, really good song. Again, you hear the songwriting, you hear that strength of songwriting really shining through, and I mean, the songs are there on Presto, but it's just not as obvious as it is on here. I mean, Roll the Bones, that big chorus is really good. Why does it happen? There's a great guitar solo in it. It's all it's so dramatic. It's a great song. Roll the Bones is excellent. Definitely a Rush classic. We move on to track 4. We get Face Up. Now this is one of those different strings or losing it type songs. I think Face Up is a lost classic. I think this is a really strong song. For whatever reason, it just never caught on. In their book, they talk about Face Up, and they say it was the song that they had a lot of hope for that never really materialized into anything. Which is so strange because for me, Face Up is one of the best songs on the album. It's definitely among the top 3 or 4 songs on the album total, and it's a really good album. So that's saying something. It's got a great energy, those opening arpeggios, and there's some drum fills which are reminiscent of the proggy years, and it's just got that great high energy. I love the synth line, that sort of reverberated thing, which is really cool. And again, there's a great a great sort of crescendo. Or it's not really a crescendo, but it's just a build of energy. I get so tired, but I keep my mouth shut. I get so angry, but I keep my mouth shut. And turn it up. It's great. It's got everything it's got all of the ingredients to make a a great hit song. It's a strong hook. It's a strong melody. It's got a great build up to it. It's got a great bridge to it. It gets very pensive towards the bridge, and that kind of soaring atmospheric synth line in the background. I have no idea why this wasn't, even if it wasn't a hit, that it never really caught on with Rush fans. They never played it live that much. So Face Up is the official forgotten classic of Roll the Bones. That's my take on that. Anyway, moving on to track 5, Where's My Thing, Part 4 of the Gangster of Boats trilogy. Part 4 of a trilogy. How about that? Nice little bit of fun jokiness in the title. But this is significant. Where's My Thing is the return of the Rush instrumental. And it's funny, for a band that's so known for their instrumental prowess, at this point they'd only done 3 instrumentals. This is only their 3rd instrumental in their entire career. Before this they did La Villa Strangiato and YYZ. And Where's My Thing is certainly not up to that level. But it is really, really good. I mean, I've always got time for a Rush instrumental. It doesn't matter. It's still going to be really cool. And of all their instrumentals, this is probably the most saturated with the synthesizers and the sequencers and whatnot. And there's kind of a weird little jazz section in the middle. And this is before Peart went and got more lessons, and he loosened up a lot more later on. But he's still a very stiff player at this point. When he's doing his jazz, it gallops more than swings. His right hand is very, very stiff still, but that's okay. It's still a very well performed piece, and there's lots of great riffs there. Classic Rush riffs that we all know and love. Ding 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 ding. All that stuff is really, really good. It's a great instrumental. Like I said, it doesn't have, and even though it does have the fills and all the crazy instrumental stuff, it's still just not quite up to the level of YYZ or Villa Strangiato. But you can't really compare it because this is the 90s. Those were in the 70s and 80s, so different time. Still a great track to have on the album, and it helps the album flow very nicely. We move on to track 6, The Big Wheel. This is a pretty good song. We hear the sequencers again. The sequencers are kind of there as a fair bit, but it's not again not dominant. The thing that I always got with the Big Wheels is it really points towards the future. That big riff that comes. The way the big wheel spins. It's something, the guitar going underneath that. It's just a couple of chords, but there's something stylistically about that leans towards Counterparts and Test for Echo. But tonally, it isn't quite there yet. It doesn't really have that, big, crunchy tone. But that style of riff is something that would become more prevalent as they went along. And the song itself is, it's pretty good. It's, kind of an album track, but, an album track on a good album is still a great song. So there you go. We'll move on to track 7, Heresy. Yeah, again, this is not one of my favorites on the album. It's okay, I hear a real U2 influence actually when I hear Heresy. There's almost a folksiness about the drum pattern, which is interesting. There's a lot of drama to it, and again, we hear a lot of great vocals from Geddy. We hear him really refining his melodic sense again. It's all over the album, really, but yeah, Heresy is kind of like Bravado for me. It's slightly lesser, just slightly. Still a great track. Anyway, track 8, Ghost of a Chance. This is one of the highlights of the album. I think this is a really good song. There's a great juxtaposition, great contrast between the kind of the riffy stuff. Great contrast between that and then the chorus, which is very, very mellow, and it's slowed down, and there's some very, very tasteful, soulful guitar playing from Lifeson that comes into that chorus. But yeah, it's a terrific song. Again, it's certainly not proggy, but there's a proggy thing about having such a big contrast between the verses and the chorus, and having the chorus being really quiet and laid back is kind of an unusual thing. So that's certainly really cool. I love that lick that Lifeson does, that soulful thing I just mentioned. That gives it a real character, and it is definitely one of the best songs on the album. One of the best songs they've done in a long time, actually. Again, you can hear all of the songwriting, things that are going into it. The refined song structure, all the hooks and the melodies and the lines and whatnot, but it still doesn't sound poppy. It's still, it's still it's a Rush hard rock song with an emotional sort of, link to it. That moment, and make it last. Great song, one of the highlights for sure. Moving on to track 9, Neurotica. And not the King Crimson Neurotica, this is a different Neurotica. Pretty good song. I really like the verses, actually. I think the verses of this song are far stronger than the chorus. And this is actually one case where I think, the melody during the chorus almost sounds like they overcooked it just a little bit. Exotica, ooh. I can't really repeat it. I'm not much of a singer, but it almost gives it too much of an emotional sort of a kick. And again, coming off of Ghost of a Chance, that has that sort of vibe to it. I don't know if it entirely works, but that sequenced bit at the very beginning, or it might be bass, boom, boom, da doom, 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 da doom, doom. That's a great moment, and like I said, the verses are like top tier Rush, and the chorus kind of lets it down a little bit. But that's just me, my own opinion. Everyone has their own opinion. Whatever, it's all good. Neurotica is still a pretty good song. And finally, we wrap it up with track 10, You Bet Your Life. Now this is a good song. It's one of those songs that's kind of weird that it's at the very end of the album, because it doesn't have that grand epic sort of quality. Lyrically it wraps things up a fair bit, but back in the early days, Rush was so good at finishing the album with a mind-blowing thing, whether it be Cygnus X1 or La Villa Strangiato or Between the Wheels, or songs like that, and they had this phase where they just couldn't really wrap an album up anymore for whatever reason. And it's not to say that You Bet Your Life is a bad song. It's a great song. It just doesn't have that finality to it. Maybe a little bit, I guess. I really like the middle section where it goes through all these fancy, different job titles. Let's see if I can get the lyrics out here. Anarchist, reactionary, running dog, revisionist, Hindu, Muslim, Catholic, creation, evolutionist, rational, romantic, mystic, cynical, idealist, minimal expressionist, postmodern, neo-symbolist. I love all that stuff that kind of washes through the middle section of the song and towards the end. That's really cool. I like, because it's kind of in the background. It's not really a lead vocal part, but it adds to the rhythm, and Geddy's wailing out the chorus. You bet your life. It's a good song. Again, lyrically it wraps it up. Musically it almost does so, but it's not the big grand finale of other Rush songs. But that makes it sound like it's not a good song, but it is really good. And that wraps it up for Roll the Bones. Like I said, it's a great album. There's a couple of songs that I mentioned are kind of lesser. Maybe for me personally it's Bravado and Heresy, but other than that, they're still good songs. They're still well-written songs, and they all they fit on this album. It's a great snapshot between the heavy period and the synthesizer period. In the 90s anyway. So yeah, there you go. If you're a fan of Rush, you need this in your life. If you're a fan of prog, maybe not. But if you're into Rush and you want to know the whole story, this is an essential bit of it for sure. So on that note, I will thank you all, and if you enjoyed this incoherent rambling, then please do like, subscribe, comment below, all that fun stuff, and stay tuned, because the next Rush video is going to be Counterparts, so you'll see me in the future. Farewell.